Hello and welcome to another SkaredCast battle report. Today, the forces of the Primaris Space Marines, led by Pedro Kantor himself, face off on this barren wasteland except for the oasis against the forces of the Drukhari, who have brought reinforcements to try and push the Space Marines back and take slaves to the arenas of the Dark City. Who will prevail in this eternal war mission? Let's begin. Hello and welcome to another SkaredCast battle report. Today we've got Crusade, so 4 objectives. We put the bunker, the Aquila lander, this crater, and the Prometheum relay pipes across this blasted scape. Now, instead of rolling for deployment normally, we decided to do something fun and draw a random deployment from the open war cards, and we got this one. I put the last objective down, so I picked the deployment. And as the Dark Eldar, to forge the narrative, they are attacking the Space Marines, so I will be in a spearhead formation, while the Space Marines will be in the corners. So, let's move on to deployment as Rob is starting to deploy first. I've picked this here, so this is the crazy triangle, and then he gets these corners to go off of. Okay. Let's see how this happens. On to deployment, but let's check out the armies that we will be beating each other up with on this Crusade mission. And here we have 1,850 points of Crimson Fists, led by Pedro Kantor himself. Rob, take it away.
So right next to Pedro Kantor, we have a librarian, Primaris Librarian.
Very cool.
On his right are 3 troop choices, all intercessor squads, 5-man. Behind them, aggressors with Boltstorm gauntlets and Fragstorm grenade launchers.
Fancy.
They will be in the repulsor.
Oh my goodness, that looks amazing.
Nice, biggest tank I ever built. Next to that is the new Redemptor Dreadnought, sporting his heavy onslaught cannon, supported by bikes with flamethrowers and twin bolters, an Inceptor squad, and 2 squads of Reavers.
These guys were the bane of my existence last game. And
Hellblaster squad.
That's right, lots of plasma. So all in all, 1,850 points of Crimson Fists, Primaris Space Marines ready to challenge the Drukhari once again and withhold them their prize of slaves. He already has some practice fighting against the Dark Eldar, and as the night draws near, we have an eternal war mission. Let's see what happens. And here we have 1,850 points of Drukhari. So, leading the army, we have a Succubus in a Outrider detachment with a unit of 15 Witches and 3 Hydra Gauntlets, 2 units of Birds and a Beast Pack Master, and 6 Reaver jet bikes. And then we have a Homunculus leading a Vanguard detachment of heavy support. I think it's Vanguard. Spearhead I think is heavy support. With a Forgeral Reaper, a Tantalus, fantastic, a Ravager, 2 units of Trueborn, and 2 Venoms. This is 1,850 points playing the Primaris Crimson Fists. Let's see what Rob has brought to enact his revenge and stay true to him beating me last time. Okay, so here we are, right before the game begins. I hope you liked the different armies. It's kind of cool. Make sure you leave a comment down below. Let us know what you think. And I do apologize, I'm still working on my Razor Wings. I just got them. They're from Zombicide. They're pretty cool. They're little like birds. Okay, so Rob, your army split into 2 with the Dark Eldar pushing forth in an arrow formation. What is your plan, sir?
I'm going to meet the spearhead head on.
There you go, on 2 different flanks.
Yes.
I like it.
Yes.
So on this flank, we have the Bikers. We've got Reavers. We've got a Dreadnought, Kantor, Librarian, Hellblasters, and an Intercessor squad. And this is where the 2 objectives on this side of the board are. So I have to come and try to do that at some point today. Okay, and then we go on this side. I put 2 big screening units of Razor Wings. I also put Reaver Jet Bikes with +1 toughness. All these 4 tanks are Coven tanks. So the Homunculus gives them +1 toughness. And I've got 15 Witches and the Succubus in the Tantalus, the Reaper, and 2 units of Trueborn in Venoms. And a Ravager hiding back here. The Beast Pack Master right in the middle there. In reserve, the Space Marines also have their Inceptors, which are the guys with the heavy bolted pistols. And some Intercessors along the Oasis, the Aggressors in the Repulsor, and 5 more Reavers with 5 more Intercessors as well. So 2 flanks, they've been taken by surprise as the Dark Eldar, Drukhari, with the Coven, Cabal, and Cult forces pushing into the middle. Who will win? We shall see. Lots of firepower, lots of destruction. I'm really excited, actually. It's going to be a fun game. It's a rematch of our last little game. Make sure you check the link down below to the first game, where the Crimson Fist slaughtered my Dark Eldar in turn and completely wiped my Dark Eldar out. So I am looking for revenge. Okay, I did finish deploying first.
Yep.
So I am getting a +1 to go first on this fateful dice roll. Okay, let's go. I rolled a 3, and he rolled a 5. Oh no! He's gonna go first. Unless he wants me to go first.
No. Definitely not.
And I will attempt to seize the initiative. Come on, come on, come on, come on! No, that is a 3. The Primaris Space Marines take the first turn, and they launch the initial attack. Primaris, turn 1. The Primaris Space Marines advanced full force, and most of the shooting was directed at some of the tanks, but thanks to the Homunculus, they are all relatively safe with their higher toughness, and I took 1 wound on this Venom. But the brunt of the attack was on the Razorwing flocks, but each lost 4 bases worth of Razorwings with pretty much everything shooting. This Repressor, by the way, has an incredible amount of shots. It moved up, together with a lot of these Intercessors and the Reavers who advanced. Remember, there's still some Aggressors in here too, and it essentially just shot downrange. So now it's the Dark Eldar turn. Let's see what I can do. This is where the objectives are, and it's end of the game objectives, so I have to try and keep stuff alive long enough to hold objectives. So I believe I'm going to have to... I'll see what I do with lots of stuff. This thing has to die. That's the plan. Try and kill that big tank thingy. Okay, we're moving on to the next turn. Dark Eldar turn 1. The screen moved up to block that corner, and the forces of the Dark Eldar converged on this flank, killing the Repressor and the Aggressors inside. The rest of the flank didn't take too much damage. Only 1 Intercessor missing from here, and 2 Intercessors missing from that squad. The Tantalus did take a wound, and now with their flank in tatters, the Crimson Fists in the corner will have to push through or hold the line, but we will see what happens as they fight a bitter fight. It is end game objective, so we shall see what happens. And I feel like the Witches have a grievance against Kantor. So we will see if they jump out of the Tantalus and go and fight Kantor in single-handed combat because of what he did to them last time. Moving on to Primaris Marines, turn 2. I thought there were 7s. Primaris Marines, turn 2. So, the Inceptors have come down and taken a bike off their toughness 5, which really helped them out. We had a whole bunch of shooting and moving, killed the screening birds, killed the Beastmaster with a charging Dreadnought, who's +1 toughness and Veil of Time, so he gets to go always first in combat, etc., etc. 1 bird is left with 2 wounds, and the Reavers have taken a wound in combat. these intercessors pulled back from the combat to get away from the Tantalus. Now the Tantalus on here, it's supposed to be down on the bottom here, but we didn't want to break my model. And then these interceptors or intercessors, so many weird names for the Primaris, they moved up and they just shot and didn't really do much. So now we're moving on to turn 2 for the Drukhari. So my screen units are gone and the main bulk of the force is still okay, with pockets of resistance all around my objectives. So even if I clear this, I still have to deal with all that over there, and there's 2 objectives at the back. So, you know, we'll see. The only thing I have up on Rob right now is First Blood. So, I've got all the witches in here. I don't know if I should bring them out and do some damage. They move up, they should do some charges. It's turn 2. No, turn 2 now for the Drukhari. So I get to reroll charge ranges. So let's see how this turns into the rest of the game. One thing that's happened this turn, we had this tank here. I tried to shoot everything I could at the Dreadnought, and he survived with 3 wounds left, 1 wound left.
He's got 1 wound left.
He's got 1 wound left, and he had like an extra toughness. So he's got 1 wound left, but he's still alive, and they don't degenerate. And now he's really close to my Tantalus, so my Tantalus doesn't feel too happy about this. My Ravager did kind of move up and then engage these intercessors to stop them from shooting stuff. My Homunculus and this Venom charged into these Reavers here, and I have another Venom up here that is just sitting over there that failed to charge this intercessor unit. I did have the Witches drop out with my Warlord, and they ran up and they charged in and they engaged these Reavers and Pedro Kantor and the Librarian, and they did kill a few models, and they did lose a few models as well, but they have tied up. Hopefully the infantry doesn't get away from them, and they don't get shot up by a bunch of bolters and plasma. Meanwhile, the Reaver jet bikes did jump out from their position to try and engage the bikers, but failed their charge, even with a reroll. So, moving on to the next turn, we have the Primaris Marines taking their 3rd turn. Let's see what Pedro Kantor does as he has heroically intervened to stop the witches from doing the damage to his lines. The Primaris Space Marines have struck hard and fast. We had the plasma guys blow up all the Reaver jet bikes together with the flamers, and then help in the combat against the witches, and all the witches and the succubus warlord have died. Their invulnerable saves not helping them against volumes of strength 4 attacks. We had the Inceptors fail their charge against the Reaper and did lose a wound from a lance shot that only did 1 damage. In the meantime, these intercessors continued their combat against the Ravager and put 2 wounds on it in combat, while the Reavers over here put 2 wounds on the Homunculus and a wound on that Venom, fighting dearly for their lives as one of their brothers is cut down. And over on this flank, these intercessors charged in to soak up Overwatch and lost 2 of their members, so the Dreadnought that was here could charge in. 2 attacks hit home, doing 8 points of damage. And it's still, so with 13 points of damage, it still has 5 wounds left. But the Tantalus striking back killed the Dreadnought, meaning that the Dreadnought is now down, and although wounded, the Tantalus is very much still operational. So now moving on to Dark Eldar, turn 3.
4. No, 3.
3. Turn 3.
Yeah.
Wow, this game's going crazy. It's bloody. Bloody. Turn 3. With the death of the Warlord, revenge will come to the Primaris. Turn 3. He's putting Kantor back because my Tantalus flew out of combat and got right in front of Kantor, making him the closest unit, and blasted him to bits. Well, yep. 3 wounds got through that do 2 damage apiece. He even burnt a reroll to try and save Kantor, and Kantor fell. So Warlord for Warlord, but now my Tantalus is surrounded by a bunch of Primaris Marines, who's probably going to die. I did shoot a lot of lance weapons at the heavy bolter Marines, and killed them. But my homunculus lost 3 wounds against the Reavers, failing to kill anyone. So he's dead, freeing up the Reavers, while that intercessor has survived, and the Blasterborn did succeed in wiping out that unit of intercessors. So I'm clearing out my flank, but it is going on to turn 4, and this is end of game objectives. So let's see, with the death of the warlords and their lines pushed back, will the Primaris Marines make a push on the Dark Eldar flank? Okay, so after turn 4 for the Primaris Crimson Fist, the Tantalus has been eliminated. It did not explode. We had the bikers advance up and try and flame the Reaper, while the Reavers and an intercessor back here have all hugged cover to prevent me from having an easy time at taking them out. But it does mean that this is turn 4 for the Dark Eldar, and it could end on turn 5, and 2 objectives in the back are well held by the Primaris Marines, while the 2 objectives are threatened in the Dark Eldar field. Let's see how the Drukhari deal with such a threat.
Yeah.
Dark Eldar turn 4. The Reaper only killed 1 biker. I shot at them with 5 lance shots. This Ravager, though, did kill the 2 Reavers, and I was successfully put 1 wound on this intercessor, and I killed 1 of the Reavers moving up the center with the Blasterborn that are pushing hard onto the Space Marine objectives, as well as my Razorwing flock that's trying to move up as fast as he can just to be a harassment unit, see if he survives. So, on to turn 5 for the Space Marines. So let's see what it is that they can do. Pretty sure they'll hold these 2, and I don't think I'll be able to blow them off in 1 turn, so at least holding at turn 5. He's going to try and contest this objective over here, and then these bikers are going to try and keep Linebreaker to even out the first blood score. So let's see what happens as we move into the final gambits of the game. Primaris Marines, turn 5. So the Plasma Marines and the Librarian get close to the bunker objective, and the Intercessors all fire into the Venoms and fail to kill or even damage the Venoms at all, thanks to the -1 and low wound rolls. And then we had the Reaver charge in and kill the little Razorwing flock before it flies into his backfield and causes disruption. Meanwhile, the bikers did charge and shoot into the Reaper and did put a few wounds on it, but the Reaper killed a biker and put a wound on another one with his 5 attacks in combat, which is pretty cool. And this Intercessor failed to do anything against the Ravager. So we're moving on to Drukhari turn 5. Turn 5 now. Okay. So my plan is I have to kill that Reaver over here. I have to put pressure on the backfield with those Intercessors. Considering I have both Venoms left alive, that's going to help me if the game continues on to the next turn. Okay, folks, we're back after the Dark Eldar 5th turn, and I was unable to kill this one Primaris with 3 Lances and a Ravager charging, and I was unable to kill this biker with the Reaper after it fell out of combat. So that objective is contested. This objective has been taken by that one Primaris thanks to objectives secured. This Reaver has Linebreaker because my deployment zone was a big corner and he gets Linebreaker. And in this corner, I'm unable to contest or take that one. And these 2 Primaris Marines, the whole unit survived 8 blaster shots and 2 Venoms, and they have 3 wounds remaining in the unit. Now, the game will continue on a 3 or more, and Rob has strategically saved 1 reroll so that if the game does continue, he can use it to try and stop the game. So, he's going for a 3, a 1 or 2.
Yeah, 1 or 2.
A 1 or 2. And that is a 6. And he is going to burn that reroll and go for the end of game. The game is over, and with the skin of their teeth, with the sacrifice of their brothers, the Primaris Marines have thwarted the Drukhari. Once again, Pedro Kantor and his legion of superhuman warriors have stopped the Dark Eldar from achieving their objectives. What a fun game. This was really entertaining. Thanks for coming down, Rob.
No problem.
Any final comments after the game?
You know what? I always love having a great time playing against you, and it's always a very close game, which I think shows we're both very good competitive generals, and I think we just love having fun.
What do you think the turning point was in the game?
I think it was probably the Dreadnought surviving all of that firepower and having one wound left, just enough to do enough wounds on that Tantalus to get it wound down.
Yeah, because then the plasma gunners were able to deal with it later in the match, or just the bolters or something. But other than that, fantastic game. Thanks a lot for tuning in. Make sure you check the links down below for more cool content. And if you'd like to support the channel, consider going on Patreon and supporting the content I create on there, like Rob, for example. Other than that, this is Skari, your grateful host, signing off until next time. Skari, out.